The rescue helicopter's rotors carved through mountain air before dissolving into haunting silence. Mayday. Impossible approach abort mission. Static swallowed the pilot's voice. 200 feet down Eagle's Peak's granite face, Isabelle Blackwood's manicured fingers scraped against unforgiving stone. Her Chanel coat hung in tatters. Crimson droplets painted the rock beneath her trembling grip. Elite rescue teams retreated into gathering storm clouds. 28 minutes until winter darkness claimed another victim. Pine needles whispered underfoot as weathered boots emerged from shadow. Caleb Morrison stepped into dying light carpenter's hands scarred by loss, eyes carved hollow by grief no father should endure. Coiled rope hung from his shoulder like a noose. A diamond ring tumbled past his gaze, catching sunset fire before vanishing into the abyss. Recognition struck like lightning. That face, those headlines. The woman who destroyed everything he'd built. And yet his hands were already reaching for the rope. 6 months earlier, sawdust danced in golden morning light streaming through Morrison Family Woodworks. Caleb's calloused fingers traced oak grain with reverence born from 15 years of devotion to craft. Each cut, each joint, each polish mark told stories of birthdays and anniversaries celebrated. The workshop smelled of pine resin and possibility, dreams shaped from timber and honest sweat. Logan's backpack thudded against the doorframe as 13-year-old feet shuffled inside with practiced quiet. "Dad, you forgot lunch money again." The boy's voice carried no accusation, only gentle resignation that cut deeper than blame. Bills covered the workbench like autumn leaves scattered by cruel wind electric company, mortgage statements, medical debt multiplying endlessly. Red stamps screamed, "Final notice," in unforgiving capitals across white envelopes that carried family destruction. Caleb's hand stilled on the wood, Rebecca's medical bills staring back from beneath unpaid invoices. Each line item reminded him of treatments they couldn't afford, specialists who demanded payment up front before hope. Logan approached quietly, studying his father's weathered face, with eyes too old for 13 years of life. "We could sell the climbing gear in the garage," the boy whispered with devastating practicality. Those ropes and carabiners gathered dust like museum pieces from another life when joy existed. When Caleb guided tourists up Eagle's Peak, and Rebecca packed trail lunches with love notes tucked inside. When laughter echoed through their small house instead of silence weighing heavy as mountain snow. The phone shrilled against workshop walls with mechanical urgency that promised bad news as always. Logan grabbed it before the second ring could complete its electronic demand for attention. "Morrison Woodworks, Logan speaking." His face crumpled like discarded paper, hope dying in real time before father's eyes. "Dad, it's the bank calling again about payments." Caleb accepted the receiver with hands that had learned to tremble in recent months without warning. The voice spoke in corporate politeness, wrapped around a razor blade sharp enough to sever dreams completely. Loan acceleration effective immediately without a negotiation or appeal process available to desperate families. 30 days to produce $87,000 or face foreclosure proceedings without mercy or consideration. The receiver slipped from his grip, clattering against concrete floor like broken promises hitting harsh reality. Logan's arms wrapped around his father's waist, small but fierce as mountain wind cutting through canyon walls. "We'll figure it out, Dad. We always find a way somehow." That evening, Caleb sat on their front porch steps while Logan finished homework at kitchen table inside. Stars emerged one by one above the Sierra Nevada foothills, same constellations he'd taught his son to navigate during camping trips. The workshop stood dark across their small yard, tools hanging silent on pegboard walls like weapons in defeated army. Bankruptcy papers waited on his nightstand, signatures required by week's end to surrender everything built through decades. 23 years of marriage, 18 months of widowhood, one son who deserved better than financial ruin. His phone buzzed with text from Logan's teacher requesting conference about late tuition payments and academic concerns mounting daily. Present day returned with Arctic wind slicing through Eagle's Peak Canyon like knives through exposed flesh and bone. Caleb's fingers wrapped around familiar rope fiber, muscle memory awakening like resurrection from temporary death of hope and purpose. Professional rescue protocols demanded helicopters, winches, teams of specialists with insurance policies, and comprehensive risk assessment procedures. But those same protocols had already failed spectacularly against Mountain's complete indifference to human planning and preparation efforts. Isabelle Blackwood hung suspended between earth and sky, between life and death, between salvation and final judgment. Her designer clothes couldn't protect against Granite's absolute lack of concern for net worth or social status markers. Storm clouds gathered like vultures circling wounded prey below, promising snow that would make retreat impossible for rescuer and victim alike. Caleb tested anchor points with methodical precision learned through 15 years of guiding climbers safely up these exact granite faces. Hands moved through motions performed countless times on this cliff system with automatic precision born from repetition. Eagle's Peak had taught him patience, respect, humility lessons carved into soul and sinew through seasons of triumph and failure. Each placement mattered like heartbeat rhythm, keeping life flowing through human body. Each decision carried weight measured in final breaths and last words spoken to beloved family members. Wind howled through canyon walls, carrying scents of pine sap, and approaching winter storm system moving inland. His headlamp beam danced across granite faces, while fingers sorted hardware by touch alone in gathering mountain darkness. Below them both, Isabel's voice rode the wind like prayer torn from desperate throat by thin air. "Please, someone, anyone can hear me calling!" Her words shattered against stone surfaces, returning as echoes of human desperation bouncing endlessly through canyon depths carved by geological time. Rope uncoiled like serpent spine down the cliff face with practiced efficiency born from decades of mountain experience. Caleb's boots found purchase on granite shelves worn smooth by millennia of weather and erosion patterns. Each downward step brought him closer to the woman whose face haunted business magazines and financial television programs nationwide. Isabelle Blackwood, CEO of Blackwood Investments, destroyer of small dreams and family businesses with surgical precision and corporate efficiency. Her company's letterhead had arrived like death certificates wrapped in legal language designed to obscure brutal mathematical realities underneath. Polite words concealing systematic brutality underneath professional veneer of respectability and business necessity. Loan called in without warning or negotiation opportunity provided to struggling families facing impossible circumstances. assets seized immediately through legal mechanisms designed to protect corporate interests above human welfare considerations. Morrison Family Woodworks dissolved with corporate efficiency that brooked no appeals or second chances for desperate people. But those were yesterday's problems requiring yesterday's solutions and emotional responses to injustice. Tonight she was simply another human being dangling above unforgiving abyss. 20 feet above her position, Caleb paused to assess tactical situation with professional detachment learned through emergency response training. Isabelle's breathing came in ragged gasps, visible as vapor clouds in frigid mountain air cutting through darkness. Blood seeped from torn fingernails where she'd clawed desperately for purchase on unforgiving stone surfaces that offered no mercy. Her left shoulder sat at unnatural angle, probably dislocated during initial fall from hiking trail above their current position. Professional assessment catalogued injuries, escape routes, time constraints, weather factors with methodical precision learned through years of crisis management. Personal emotion warred with mechanical necessity, while precious seconds evaporated into mountain darkness, gathering like funeral shroud over canyon. The woman who'd signed papers ending his livelihood now hung helpless beneath him like broken bird with clipped wings, life measured in muscle fatigue and failing grip strength against inexorable physics and gravity's patient but relentless pull downward. Justice and mercy wrestled in his chest cavity, while wind sang funeral songs through canyon walls carved by time. Recognition burned in his throat like swallowed fire. This was Isabelle Blackwood in flesh, not just corporate signature on legal documents. The face that had smiled from magazine covers while families lost everything to her investment strategies and market manipulations. The voice that had testified before Congress about necessary market corrections and acceptable collateral damage in pursuit of economic efficiency. Corporate machinery personified, human cost externalized completely, profit margins prioritized over human suffering and family stability throughout economic system. Isabelle Blackwood. Her name carried down wind currents like accusation thrown from mountain heights above them, both in darkness. Shock jolted through her frame like electric current, nearly loosening her desperate hold on granite edges that meant survival. I know who you are completely. Caleb's voice remained steady, professional, stripped of emotion that threatened to overwhelm tactical thinking and rescue protocols. And I know exactly what your company did to mine and hundreds of families like it. Truth fell between them like stones down a well, each word echoing against granite walls that had witnessed similar conversations. Isabelle's head turned upward with obvious physical effort, mascara streaking down dirt-smudged cheeks in abstract patterns of human suffering and corporate guilt. Recognition flickered in her eyes like dying flame, struggling against mountain wind, followed immediately by something deeper than simple fear. Shame, perhaps, or resignation to cosmic justice finally arriving through unexpected messenger of fate and circumstance. Her voice barely carried above wind song through canyon walls when she managed to speak through chattering teeth. Your wife, Rebecca Morrison. I remember the file clearly now. Words dissolved into sobs that shook her entire frame like earthquake tremors threatening to dislodge her precarious grip on life. I'm so sorry. I'm so fucking sorry for everything. Profanity torn from polished corporate facades, humanity bleeding through carefully constructed professional composure like water through cracked stone foundation. Caleb's jaw tightened until muscles cramped with physical pain, memories surging like floodwater through broken dam walls of emotional control. Rebecca's final weeks, morphine rationed because insurance companies wouldn't cover experimental treatments for terminal patients without guarantee of success. Funeral costs borrowed against their home's equity, while creditors circled like carrion birds sensing weakness and financial vulnerability. Medical debt that multiplied like malignant cells even after death claimed its primary victim completely and finally. Logan eating free school lunches while his father sold precious tools to pay electric bills and maintain basic dignity. The slow dissolution of everything they'd built together through 23 years of marriage and shared dreams for future. Rope burned through Caleb's climbing gloves as he descended the final 20 feet, separating him from his target below. Sorry doesn't resurrect the dead or pay outstanding medical bills that destroyed us. His words struck like hammer blows against anvil of granite and wind cutting through canyon walls mercilessly. Sorry doesn't put food on empty tables or keep families together during crisis periods when hope dies. Isabelle flinched with each accusation like physical blows, fingers slipping another fraction of an inch toward inevitable physics. Her left hand abandoned its grip entirely, leaving only 4 fingers between continued existence and empty air rushing downward. I know that truth, she whispered, voice nearly lost in wind song through mountain peaks above. That's why I'm here tonight. That's why I climbed up here alone without guides or safety equipment. Understanding struck Caleb like avalanche, sudden and overwhelming in its terrible completeness and implications for rescue mission. This wasn't accident or recreational misadventure gone wrong through poor planning or equipment failure in wilderness conditions. This was intended destination, planned finale, executive decision wrapped in corporate efficiency, applied to personal termination with characteristic thoroughness. Suicide disguised as hiking accident, guilt resolved through gravity rather than lengthy legal proceedings or public scandal that might damage reputation. You came here to die deliberately? Statement, not question, delivered with clinical precision learned through years of emergency response work. Isabelle's remaining grip weakened visibly, tendons straining against inevitable physics and failing human engineering under extreme stress and hypothermia. All those companies destroyed, all those families ruined. Morrison Woodworks was just one file in hundreds of similar cases. Her voice cracked like breaking ice under pressure, confession spilling from corporate executive reduced to basic human vulnerability. I see their faces in board meetings now constantly. I hear children crying in quarterly reports and profit calculations. Confession continued despite obvious physical strain and approaching unconsciousness from blood loss and mountain cold. Your son, Logan. I remember his name from the paperwork and impact assessments we conducted afterward to measure damage. Personal details emerging from corporate memory banks, humanizing statistics previously treated as acceptable losses in pursuit of shareholder value and market dominance. Rebecca Morrison, age 38, pancreatic cancer diagnosis, insufficient insurance coverage through our loan acceleration policies, treatment denied, claim rejected completely. Caleb positioned himself directly above her failing grip, rope secured to multiple anchor points, tested through muscle memory and experience. Professional protocol warred with personal vengeance, duty against justice, forgiveness against retribution earned through years of suffering and loss. You know my wife's name and my son's name? His headlamp illuminated tear tracks on dirt-stained cheeks, corporate makeup dissolved by mountain weather and genuine human emotion. You know exactly what you did to us and our family. Isabelle's remaining fingers began to slip with visible deliberation, gravity patient but persistent in its ultimate intentions and mathematical certainty. Then let me fall and pay for what I've done to innocent families everywhere. Surrender disguised as atonement for corporate sins and accumulated guilt over years of decisions that destroyed lives. Let justice be served through natural consequences rather than prolonged legal proceedings that solve nothing for victims. Her grip loosened deliberately. Final corporate decision applied to personal termination with characteristic efficiency and calculated finality. Logan needs his father more than the world needs another corporate criminal walking free on technicalities. Martyrdom offered as payment for accumulated guilt and societal damage caused through years of calculated cruelty disguised as business necessity. No! The word erupted from Caleb's chest before conscious thought could intervene or analyze tactical options available in crisis situation. His descent system engaged automatically, rope singing through hardware as he dropped toward her position with practiced efficiency and determination. You don't get to choose martyrdom as easy escape from responsibility to those you've harmed throughout your career. His feet planted against granite beside her failing grip, safety equipment deploying with mechanical precision learned through countless rescue operations. You don't get to escape consequences through gravity and call it justice served appropriately to victims. Professional rescue techniques overrode personal desire for revenge, training asserting dominance over emotional response to years of accumulated injury. My son needs to know his father saves people, even people who don't deserve saving or forgiveness from victims. Safety harness clips opened with practiced efficiency, learned through countless emergency responses in mountain terrain and harsh conditions like these. Especially people who don't deserve saving, because that's what separates heroes from victims in this world of moral complexity. Metal carabiners locked around Isabelle's torso just as her final finger abandoned its purchase on granite edge. Weight transferred instantly to Caleb's anchor system, physics and engineering replacing failing human strength with technological reliability and mathematical precision. Isabelle hung limp in improvised harness, consciousness wavering between shock and blood loss, while mountain wind sang requiem songs through canyon walls. Why would you save me? The word barely whispered past chattering teeth, and hypothermia-induced confusion clouding rational thought processes. Because that's what Rebecca would have done in my position. Caleb answered, beginning their ascent with mechanical precision learned through years. Because that's what I want my son to become when he faces similar moral choices in life. Each upward inch fought against gravity, against history, against the gravitational pull of vengeance that had consumed so many men. Rope stretched and strained under double load, hardware tested beyond manufacturer specifications, but holding firm against mountain's indifference to engineering. 30 minutes of methodical climbing brought both figures to Eagle's Peak summit as emergency vehicles painted canyon walls below with strobes. Paramedics swarmed around Isabelle's unconscious form, while Caleb sat in stunned silence, adrenaline slowly metabolizing into exhaustion and delayed shock. Her wallet had spilled during the rescue operation, business cards and credit cards scattered across granite like corporate confetti celebrating survival. But there, tucked behind driver's license and platinum credit cards, a folded newspaper clipping yellowed with careful preservation. Rebecca Morrison's obituary, carefully cut from local paper and preserved between plastic sheets like sacred text or religious artifact. Next to it, a handwritten note in elegant script that betrayed expensive education and genuine remorse for past actions. Forgive me. I remember them all. Every name, every family, every consequence of my corporate decisions and policies. Evidence of guilt carefully preserved as personal penance, corporate executive maintaining detailed records of human cost behind profit margins. The ambulance bay at Northern Sierra Medical Center hummed with fluorescent efficiency and antiseptic sterility that contrasted sharply with mountain wilderness. Isabelle drifted between consciousness and morphine dreams, IV fluids replacing blood loss, while X-rays revealed 3 cracked ribs and severe dislocation. Caleb occupied the waiting room's furthest corner, coffee growing cold between his palms while news reports played on televisions. Logan arrived with their neighbor, Mrs. Chen, teenage worry etched across features too young for such burdens and responsibility. Dad? The news said you saved someone important on Eagle's Peak tonight. His son's voice carried questions too complex for simple answers or parental protection from adult realities and moral complexity. Was it someone who hurt our family somehow? The question hung between them like smoke from distant wildfires, impossible to dispel completely. Caleb pulled his son close, breathing in shampoo scent and childhood innocence that hadn't been entirely destroyed by hardships. Someone who made terrible mistakes and needed help regardless of past actions or consequences for our family. Truth filtered through parental protection, age-appropriate portions of adult complexity served in digestible pieces that wouldn't overwhelm teenage understanding. 24 hours later, Isabelle requested private audience with her rescuer, despite medical staff recommendations for continued rest and observation. Bandages restricted movement, but couldn't contain the words that had fermented during sleepless hours of morphine-induced introspection and examination. I've been carrying your wife's obituary for 8 months, like a talisman of shame and corporate guilt. She began with steady voice. Morrison Woodworks was my first file as CEO when I was 25 years old and ruthlessly ambitious. Her fingers traced hospital blanket edges with surgical precision, while confession continued unabated by medical protocol or visitor restrictions. I approved your loan recall without reading attached documentation or conducting proper impact assessments on affected families and communities. Caleb remained silent, allowing confession to fill space between their chairs while machines beeped steadily in background rhythm. After Rebecca died, I researched her story through private investigators and medical records available through legal channels and corporate resources. Isabelle's voice cracked like breaking glass, corporate facade crumbling under weight of accumulated guilt and proximity to mortality's reminder. Brilliant biochemist, published researcher, devoted mother who deserved experimental treatments rather than marketplace medicine rationed by insurance companies operating under profit. Tears fell onto pristine hospital linens, salt water washing away years of carefully constructed justification for corporate decisions that treated suffering as externality. She might have lived if experimental treatments were accessible through adequate medical coverage and family financial resources. Truth emerged like confession extracted under medical sedation, psychological barriers dissolved by proximity to death, and genuine remorse for actions. If medical bills hadn't consumed your family resources earmarked for treatment and recovery options that might have worked. Isabelle produced legal documents from beside table drawer with shaking hands that betrayed emotional upheaval beneath corporate composure and professional training. I've liquidated personal assets to establish comprehensive restitution for your family's losses caused directly by my corporate decisions and policies. $12.7 million, equivalent to lifetime earnings your family lost due to my company's acceleration and foreclosure. Papers rustled like prayer pages between trembling fingers, while Isabelle outlined comprehensive restitution plan designed by legal teams and financial advisors. Trust fund established for Logan's education covering undergraduate and graduate studies at any institution he chooses to attend. Mortgage payments through completion and property transfer to family ownership without encumbrance or legal complications that might arise. Medical coverage through graduation and beyond, including experimental treatments previously denied by insurance companies operating under restrictive policies and profit margins. Caleb accepted documents with hands that had learned to navigate impossibility, scanning legal language that promised security beyond imagination or reasonable expectation. It won't resurrect Rebecca or restore those final months together as complete family unit. Her voice carried weight of genuine remorse. But it might prevent your son from carrying financial burdens that aren't his responsibility to bear alone through life. Why would you do this for us? The question emerged from depths he'd forgotten existed during months of financial desperation and hopelessness. Isabelle's laugh carried no humor, only hollow recognition of irony's bitter taste and cosmic justice served through unexpected channels. Because you saved me when letting me fall would have solved every problem and provided perfect revenge for past injuries. Her eyes met his directly for the first time since the mountain rescue, corporate mask finally abandoned in favor of connection. Because your son deserves a father who chooses mercy over vengeance regardless of personal cost or justified anger at injustice. Truth hung between them like mountain air, thin but sustaining for those willing to breathe deeply enough to survive. 3 weeks passed in bureaucratic whirlwind, as legal documents transferred fortunes with surgical precision, overseen by teams of attorneys and advisors. Morrison Family Woodworks reopened with expanded workshop space, modern equipment, comprehensive health insurance covering experimental treatments, previously considered luxury items for wealthy families. Logan's college fund grew beyond necessity into generational wealth that would support multiple family branches through decades of opportunity and choice. Community members who'd watched their neighbor struggle suddenly witnessed resurrection through mysterious benefactors' grace and financial intervention beyond understanding. Caleb worked with renewed purpose, crafting furniture pieces that would outlast their maker while building legacy from honest materials. Each joint, each finish, each completed project carried weight of second chances and unexpected redemption through human connection transcending corporate categories. Isabelle appeared at workshop threshold on Thursday morning when October sunlight painted sawdust golden and possibility hung thick like incense in sacred space. Her arm remained immobilized in medical sling, designer clothes replaced by jeans and flannel shirt that suggested serious commitment to learning. "I'd like to learn woodworking," she announced, studying workbench arrangements with genuine curiosity unmarked by corporate calculation or hidden agenda. Creating something beautiful instead of destroying what others built through generations of family effort and honest labor. Caleb's hands paused mid-cut, measuring request against past grievances and future possibilities for genuine healing and redemption through work. It's not therapy or corporate team building, he warned with voice carrying weight of experience earned through years of instruction. Wood demands patience, respect, precision. You can't negotiate with grain patterns or corporate speak your way through dovetail joints that require honesty. Isabelle approached his workbench with tentative steps that suggested genuine humility rather than false modesty designed to manipulate emotions or expectations. Good, she answered simply without corporate qualifiers or escape clauses built into statements for legal protection. I'm tired of talking my way through everything important in life and relationships with other human beings. Her fingers traced oak grain with reverence typically reserved for sacred texts or family heirlooms passed through generations of care. Teach me to build something that matters beyond quarterly reports and shareholder meetings and profit margin calculations that treat people like numbers. Caleb studied her face with analytical precision, learned through years of reading wood grain and human character under pressure and stress. Searching for manipulation or hidden agenda beneath surface humility and apparent contrition for past actions that caused such damage. Instead, he found exhaustion, bone-deep, and genuine desire for atonement through creation, rather than continued destruction of human dreams and stability. Months blended into seasons as unlikely partnership developed between victim and perpetrator, teacher and student, grieving widower and guilt-stricken executive seeking redemption. Isabelle's fingers learned to read wood grain patterns with patience, to respect tool edges that demanded attention and precision from users, to measure twice and cut once, ancient wisdom that applied equally to carpentry and corporate decision-making processes that affected lives. Blisters formed and hardened into calluses, while corporate manicures gave way to work-roughened hands that bore honest scars from learning. Logan observed their interactions with teenage analytical skills inherited from his mother's scientific training and logical thinking, gradually accepting Isabelle's presence as fixture rather than threat. She's not Mom and never will be, he told his father one evening while they cleaned tools together in comfortable silence. But she's trying to become someone Mom would approve of, meeting in whatever comes after this life ends. Christmas morning arrived with Sierra Nevada snow blanketing their small town in pristine silence that muffled sound and purified landscape with clean beauty. Logan unwrapped gifts beneath tree that Caleb had crafted from reclaimed oak, each ornament telling stories of survival and renewal through impossible circumstances. Isabelle sat beside their fireplace, no longer visitor but family member, chosen rather than inherited through blood or marriage contracts. Her gift to Logan handmade jewelry box crafted under Caleb's patient instruction revealed crude technique, but passionate effort invested in every detail and surface. Inside, nestled against purple velvet lining, Rebecca's diamond ring gleamed like captured starlight, preserved through impossible journey from mountain abyss. Your mother's ring, Caleb whispered, voice thick with emotion he'd learned to feel again, without shame or reservation about vulnerability. I found it after the rescue operation. Thought it was lost forever in the abyss below us both. Isabelle's smile carried weight of redemption, earned through months of honest labor and genuine contrition rather than legal settlements or publicity campaigns. Nothing's lost forever if we're willing to climb down and retrieve what matters most to our hearts. Snow continued falling outside their windows, blanketing past pain beneath promise of spring renewal and fresh growth in coming seasons. 3 people sat around kitchen table littered with hot chocolate mugs and cookie crumbs, family found in most unlikely circumstances imaginable. "What happens now?" Logan asked, teenage directness cutting through adult complexity with surgical precision inherited from both parents' intellectual honesty. Isabelle reached across table to clasp his father's scarred hand, gesture that encompassed gratitude, commitment, and hope for continued healing together. "Now we keep building," she answered with conviction, earned through months of patient learning and honest work with hands. "Keep creating instead of destroying. Keep choosing mercy over justice, forgiveness over revenge, construction over demolition of human dreams." Outside, Eagle's Peak stood sentinel against star-scattered sky, granite faces bearing witness to human fragility and strength in equal measure throughout geological time. The mountain remembered everything important, every choice made on granite faces throughout history, every decision between mercy and vengeance that shaped human character. Sometimes the greatest rescues happen not with ropes and carabiners, but with open hands and willing hearts prepared to catch what falls.